All right, the boring stuff's out of the way. We got everything cleaned. Now, this week, we want you to go out and amend your garden bed. That's it. Just a simple amendment to get things nice and happy and ready for you to start your garden right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening as we learn to grow and grow for change. I have a feeling this is your least favorite thing to do. One of your least.
Oh, and in the moment you thought you knew me, I surprised you. I was listening to you open up and I'm just like, this is actually a good spot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to just go out and just put things into the earth. But this part, amending, feeds into my clean slate gardening appeal. Yeah. I feel like it's the beginning of starting over, if you will.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is. What do you amend with? You personally?
For me personally, I use this nice Bath and Body soap conditioner. No, seriously.
I was going to say, what the hell is she talking about? Garden hack.
I do two things, and let me know if the third thing, if you feel like that's amending. So I add new soil, and generally it's going to be bagged soil, which is what I commonly use. I've had one soil drop, big dumpster of soil dropping just once, and that was way too much. But anyway, so I generally amend with soil and then bagged compost. And the third thing, which could be perceived as amending, is putting some type of mulch on top once I'm done.
Yeah. Well, okay. Mm-hmm. So mulch, there's a caveat to that. It becomes an amendment, I believe. Mm-hmm. This is just my personal belief. So I don't add soil to my beds ever. I just add compost.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, I have no issues with adding soil, but if I'm going to add something, it's going to add compost. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, how much do you add to yours?
So my beds in the backyard they're various sizes, but let's go with the majority are 7 by 4, 7 mm-hmm. feet by 4 feet. And I'll add one of the larger bags. I think it's 2 cubic square feet.
2 cubic feet. Yeah.
So
no, it's not cubic squared. It's just cubic.
Yeah, that's two different things, so it can't be the same.
Yeah, one's volume, one's area.
Yeah, good night. So 2 things, 2 feet of things.
2 cubic feet.
That we weren't this is some type of mathematician class. What are we using, the metric system? What is this? What's happening here? So a big bag, the biggest bag that the Home Depot sell. And then I've done 1 to 2 bags of compost. But I wanted to go back because I support in the idea of just loading in compost, assuming mm-hmm. it's readily available. But I also I don't do it, but I support that concept. I also have to balance for some of my beds that are on the patio in the backyard. I'm literally losing soil. It's just not compacting. I'm literally losing it out of the bottom of the beds.
Right.
So it makes me feel warm and fuzzy that I'm adding more soil. And it feels like it's more cost effective to add more soil versus bagged compost.
Yeah, it may be. I don't know. I know that the compost feeds, and the soil will feed too, mm-hmm, but mm-hmm. compost will continue to break down. And I was out talking to Riley, the compost guy, mm-hmm. and he has these different piles of compost, and one of them was, chunky and the other ones were screened. And we were looking at it and he was like, which would you buy? And I was like, I'd buy the one that wasn't screened, mm-hmm. because when you put that down, it will still continue to break down and keep feeding longer. And so that's kind of the way I look at it is, you want, the compost is really, I think it's pivotal to the garden. Mm-hmm. So that's what I amend with. And when I ask you how much you add down, I was looking for a measurement of top layer, how much you would add to the top of your bed.
Okay.
So I try to add, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as before we started this episode, another way to do that would have been, hey, Batavia, how many inches do you add when you amend? Right? Somebody feed me my lines. But go ahead. You add how many inches?
So like this year, my beds are kind of starved for compost. So I'm probably going to put about 3 to 4 inches. But on a normal year, I would add about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Just every year adding that on top, right? Yeah,
that's about right for me as well because...
About 1 inch?
Generally I try to get just up to the top of the bed and I'm just trying to calculate how much I think I lose each year. So probably about 1 inch, depending on the bed, maybe 1.5 inches. The front yard beds, and I think it's just they're still settling. The front yard raised beds clearly are losing more or compacting more. Let me say that. Different material. Again, the setup is 2 years old now. It's easily going from the top of the bed at the beginning of the season to like 2 to maybe 3 inches. It's dropping, right? At the end of the season. So in that instance, when I saw that going from the first season to the second season, I was comfortable with not filling it up completely because those beds sit high. So I really don't need to get to the top of the bed anyway. I also like the idea of fresh soil.
Yeah. Well, see, and I kind of look at compost, even though it's not, as soil as well. Mm-hmm. So, and one thing that I do too is once I get the compost down, then, because this is all about the same time now where you can be planting some of your greens and stuff like that. And then I will lay my mulch down. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I use straw. Okay. And you use...
historically, in the majority of the beds, I'd say wood chip mulch. Mm-hmm. But guess what? I am on the search. I'm just going to have to ask one of my neighbors. My lawnmower, which I don't have grass, right? There's 4 foot by 2 inch space, like off to the side. That's still my city property responsibility. So that's like the one bit of grass I have. I totally have a lawnmower, but every year it has to get tuned up and I'm not sure how to do that. So anyway, I have a bunch of leaves that I want to shred and I think I'm just going to ask a neighbor to shred them for me because I want to use leaves. I want to try that out the summer version of spring and summer version of mulch. I've used it previously to put the garden to bed, but pull them out when the year starts.
So, because then I add my mulch, and you were asking if that's an amendment, and I believe that it becomes an amendment once it breaks down. So it's a protective amendment. Mm-hmm. But in the fall, I don't pull that mulch up. I just put right on top of it the compost again.
Okay. Well, that's I was watching your video about wood chip mulch and your final verdict. Oh, you're a tough critic. But you were talking about the consistency. So my wood chips are it's bark baby. They're pretty thick, sizable. They're not really shredded or fine is probably the way to describe it. Where I noticed that some of yours were. And I can see that being an opportunity to say, I'm going to add, this amendment, this compost on top of it, because that truly is breaking down. It takes mine just based on the size of the wood chips a bit longer to break down. Yeah.
Them big, huge chunks, they'll take them years to break down.
Yeah. But what I have done in some instances, which is kind of off subject, but hey, this is how I roll. When I'm clearing the bed from the wood chips, so put the wood chips down, as a part of the beginning of the season. At the end of the season, in some instances, I amend the bed. This year, I'll have to amend the beds in the spring like we're talking about now. But I would pull back those wood chips to add in, because again, they're so thick, to add in, my soil, my compost. But what I end up doing, because at that point, you kind of have a mixture of dirt and wood chips, depending on the size, I'll just put them in my walkway. because I'm always walking and trampling over that. So that is, to be frank, that's breaking down faster than anything else.
Yeah, I just move mine to my flower beds or something else.
That's a good solution
something
too.
that it's not needed for.
Yeah.
But, and it's funny because it's like, okay, this is a Minisode, which, by the way, we're running out of time. But
says you. I didn't sign the terms and conditions for this Minisode.
Yeah, really. So you're like probably thinking, well, that's weird. You're getting all this different information because, well, the reason is because no gardener does it the same. Batavia does it her way. I do it my way. And we all find something that works for us.
Yeah.
So, Batavia, like if you've watched that wood mulch video that I did, nah, there's no way I'm going to use it. Yeah. It's just not for me. But she's had great success with it. So the other and last final thing to do right now is I would take some even fertilizer, meaning 10-10-10, 5-5-5, 20-20-20, whatever, and I would put a dusting into your garden right now. Because if it's organic, because it's going to have to continue to break down before it'll feed. Yeah. So now's the time to go out there and put that into your garden and just get that garden ready, get it nice and fed. Because when you put it in, boom. And you don't want to do it like a real heavy, just put a dusting out there, just get it going, get it breaking down. Yeah. So, as we've talked, go ahead.
I have one more thing.
As we've talked about on here, organic fertilizers have to compost before or decompose before they really start to release. So you're giving it that time to do that because this is typically people's wet season. So things are going to start breaking down and stuff like that.
Yep. So the one thing I'll add, and this is, kind of, it could be assumed, but just in case it's not, I want to say it. A part of the reason why you're doing this now is most of us don't have a lot of things growing in our garden already. And while you can amend your garden beds and your garden in the middle of the season, it's much easier to manage and amend now compared to when you have a bunch of things growing.
Yeah.
So that's it.
No, and it's so much easier when you have a blank slate. So to wrap up, compost. You can mulch now, or you can wait a little bit till you get some plants in the ground, whatever. Add soil if you need to, if you're like Batavia and you're losing soil, or just add extra compost. A light dusting of fertilizer, and you should be good, right?
Yeah, man.
You heard it right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast. Get out there and amend your bed, son, because it is getting time.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you want to see what we're up to or just stay up to date on all the announcements regarding the show or anything gardening, then you can follow us on Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV.
We love seeing what you guys are doing, so use hashtag BYG podcast in your posts, and we'll be sharing your gardens with the Backyard Gardens community.
And check us out on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we will post this show, all of our other shows, clips, and then also some gardening tips and just gardening entertainment. And you can see us at our website at backyardgardenstv.com. But that's it for today's show. So help us as we learn to grow and grow for change. And until next time, we'll catch you guys later. We'll call this one a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.